Okay. Hey, gang. We're going to try a second take on KUDEN episode 86. So hopefully the sound is coming through now. Hopefully we resolve some technical issues. If you're listening in on the podcast, it might sound a little bit confusing, but when we set this up live through Facebook Live and YouTube and all those kind of things, everybody knows that the sound was fading in and out. Let me bring up the chat, see if anybody else is still hanging out with me. Anyway, hopefully the sound is working now. I reset the whole system, and as somebody said earlier, technology is great, or at least my motivation is great. Technology can be failing sometimes. So anyway, looks like I'm on. So hopefully everybody else will get the message and they'll be coming back. Excellent. All right. So it looks like folks are starting to ease back in, which is great. I apologize now in the interim while everything was resetting. So did my system. So now I may have some hiccups. So different type of hiccups, right? Health type hiccups this time. So anyway, let me get one of my poisons here and crack it open. No, it's not a beer. Anyway, so for those of you who missed the first take, today's episode is all wrapped around a couple of topics that one of the listeners had sent in, and somebody that's been a student of mine, and they're kind of a long distance individual and whatnot. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about training through injuries and limitations and those kind of things. And where up to this point, a lot of my episodes have been about problems that people run into, problems that I encountered on the journey, tips, like discoveries and things like that. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of how-tos. Okay, so we're already a little bit behind because of the technical glitches and all that, but let's just make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and officially get things started, and I'll join you back in just a minute.
So, the big question is this. How are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world.
All right, I am back. See, this is what happens when I don't have like a producer and a technical person and all that, and I'm a one-man band when it comes to the podcast. But anyway, here we are, right? We're 86 episodes into this thing. This is I don't know, what is it? We're 18 into the reboot from the original one. And so I would normally have everybody jump over onto modernninjawarrior.com /KUDEN-podcast-episodes to look at the whole library. But at the moment, I'm going to have to tell you, look, you're going to have to do a Google search on, for KUDEN and podcast and Apple Podcast and Stitcher and all these kind of places. Chances are we're there. I don't think we're on Spotify yet. I know people keep asking. We're trying. I don't know what the problem is, right? Everybody else has us on, and it's all good. But anyway, we're on just about everywhere else. So, but at the moment, we're dealing with a security issue that GoDaddy, one of our site servers, had. Apparently, they got. They're using the word infiltrated. They got hacked back in September, and we just found out about it about a week ago. And they were protecting sites and turning things off and redoing passwords and all that kind of stuff. And we're still down. So we're working with them to try to get things back where they're supposed to be. They're telling me it's not their security issue, but or it's not a result of their security problem. But we went down when they went down. So anyway, we're trying to get all that worked out. But in the meantime, you're not going to be able to go to the library page there to get all previous 85 episodes. You're going to have to go to one of the normal podcast things, or go through the KUDEN podcast Facebook page or my YouTube channel or whatever, and find some of those older ones if you want to review them. But if you want to go all the way back before the reboot, before we started doing this live through YouTube and all this stuff, you're going to have to go to Apple and Stitcher and all these other places, right? So anyway, that being said, one of my listeners, one of my guys that's kind of been connected to me for a while, Brian, I think it's Brian. I apologize if I got that wrong, but they sent in as a response to some topic requests and suggestions, right? In a couple of past episodes, I invited everyone. If you have any questions, topics that you'd like me to cover, anything like that, right? Let me know, right? So he did, right? And so this is kind of a result of that. He sent in several. What I'm doing is I'm going to cover things that are, to me, they're pretty much the same. I don't care if you, whatever the reason is that we might have a challenge with training, whether it's injury or perceived limitations or actual limitations or whatever. Today, I want to cover things from more of a meaty how-to, right, and some suggestions, right? So let me do this. You're still going to be able to see my face. I just need to bring up some, well, actually, you know what? I'll do it this way. I'll do it on the smaller device, right? It's probably more powerful than my laptop anyway. And bring up the original message that was sent to me because I want to read it and not lose kind of the meaning. Brian. Okay, there it is. Brian. So he and I had just a little bit of a dialogue because the topics that he sent in were like training around or through injuries, training experiences with teachers when you were coming up. I did that not too long ago, and I could do it again, but not this episode. And then supplemental training ideas for mind body to enhance training. What I said was a great idea. But what I wanted was a little bit more explanation on the mind body to enhance training kind of thing, right? Because from my perspective, that could either be different mind and or body things, right? Things to focus on or things to enhance the mind body connection, right? So which one is it, right? He also pointed out, and I appreciate it, right? He said, I tend to over deliver and I give a lot out for free, hopes that doesn't impede, the programs that I sell and things like that. And one, I would rather over deliver and leave people really kind of wondering. I mean, it's not kind of generated, but I'm sure it comes up, right? If this is what I'm giving away for free, what is it that I'm offering, when somebody actually becomes a student? I don't know, is it probably a good line, but what the big thing that people are getting when they become an actual student is a structured delivery of the lessons and not just topics, that are from different areas and kind of spread out. Because when everybody goes through this, right? I mean, I guess if you stuck with it long enough, you'd end up getting everything I have because I don't filter, right? But at the same time, this is no different than trying to learn on YouTube, right? What order should the techniques be done, right? Or do you just jump around like you do cat videos, right? So it's the structure and the building block kind of thing, right? That kind of process, right? That people get when they're training with me on a regular basis, right? There's a set curriculum, there's a set lesson plan, there's certain points. Now, of course, if the student gets things at a faster rate or whatever, then I'll shift things for them. But generally speaking, there's a certain process and path that I walk folks through so they don't miss anything, right? So don't miss something that's important, right? I apologize. I'm dealing with a sinus thing here. So if you see me like rubbing at my mustache or below my nose or whatever, I'm trying to stifle a potential sneeze and all those kind of things. But anyway, there's a process, right? When people are jumping around, I don't care if they jump around from seminar to seminar or teacher to teacher or YouTube video to YouTube video. normally it's from a cool factor, or they don't know what to look at, so they just start looking at things, right? But the reality is that there are these things that we call kihon no kihon in Japanese, right? Fundamentals of the fundamentals. So even though you have basics, right, all those things are built from smaller pieces, right? And so if there's certain things that you're missing, then it can really throw you off. I'll give you an example of that, right? One year I was training in Japan, and we were in one of Hatsumi Sensei's classes, a ton of people that were there, right? From all over the world. And we were working on this one technique that kind of had a transition from a punch to a grappling kind of thing or whatnot. And I looked to my right, and a couple of my students were there practicing, and they were really having a problem with this arm catch kind of thing that we were doing. And I leaned over and I said, it's an onikudaki that's failing, and then it turns into this thing, right? And then I went right back to my thing, because I always tell people when we're in Japan, unless I mention something to you, don't ask me anything, because I'm trying to figure things out, right? Because my teachers are as far ahead of me as you think I am of you, and that's the way it should be, right? If you think you're that close to the teacher for figuring it out, then go find another freaking teacher, because they can't challenge you. They can't help you get to the next phase. You're almost where they are. So either they're not practicing, or you're already better than they are, or you think you're better than you really are, whatever, right? So either way, you need another teacher, because they're not challenging you. But anyway, I leaned over and I said this, and somebody to my right? And somebody to the other side kind of leaned over and said, "What'd you tell him?" And I told him this thing, and he went, "Onikuda, is that one of those like kihon things? Is that one of those basic kind of things?" And I said, "You mean one of the techniques that shows up again and again and again over, a butt ton of techniques?" And he goes, "Yeah." Now, this is somebody that had been training for 6 to 8 years, already had a high level black belt. We'll go over that some other time, the difference between getting promoted in my system and getting promoted for time in other places or whatever. But anyway, he goes, "Oh, well, you know what? I've already been training for this long. So yeah, no, I'm not even going to bother with it." Okay, but that was a reference point, right? And it's a fundamental for a reason, right? So anyway, it's just one of those things, right? If you're missing pieces, jumping around and adding and learning more techniques and trying to practice things isn't going to fix base fundamental problems, right? So anyway, but I had this little question, right? What was the perspective coming from? And we bring it up here again. So he said, I was thinking along the lines of supplemental reading or things to meditate on to foster the warrior spirit. One thought that you've brought up that helped me tremendously was to just make a decision. Warriors make decisions. If we have to make another decision later, then great. But just hanging out in limbo isn't going to do anything for anyone. Okay? Absolutely, right? So again, I was sharing some of my unreasonable goals, which just got even more so before, like in take one of this thing, which if you can't find it on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, it's because I went back and deleted this piece of crap that the audio was going in and out of. But anyway, there's this process, right? So I'm not going to talk about the decision making and all that. We've got this other things going on, but one of the gists that Brian had was in training through injuries and fostering this warrior spirit, which to me has a lot to do with overcoming limitations. I don't care what the limitations are. I don't care if it's a physical injury. I don't care if it's depression. And I know how unfashionable that kind of talk is, right? I mean, that could get me banned from every social network that ever exists, because if I'm not nurturing victimhood, then I'm an asshole, right? Well, I'm an asshole, okay? But I don't care if the limitations are, again, a physical limitation or an injury, or I was born with 1 foot shorter than the other, or I've got 3 eyes, or my daddy beat me. He did. Whatever, right? I don't care what they are. Right? I don't care what they are, right? This is all in the same kind of a mix, okay? So, but I did want to kind of keep a little bit of a structure to this, so that because I promised a how-to during this episode, okay? So anyway, but let's do that. Let's talk about training around or through injuries, okay? because that is one of the biggest things that people have, right? So let me tell you another story, right? I had only been training in this art for, by then, let's see, I guess a couple of years, but formally with my teacher, formally with Stephen Hayes, the guy who first brought this stuff back to Japan, from Japan to the U.S., probably had formalized my my teacher-student relationship with him less than a year, right? So anyway, I'm stationed in Germany, and I was trying to put this first training group together, and we did a demonstration at a local fair, right? The military families group kind of put this thing together, right? To highlight things that families, dependents, right, children, wives, spouses, whatever, could do. They're living in a foreign country and whatnot. So here's this kind of a little enclave, right, or an enclave, right, where they could do some things, right? Because we have the rec center and we have the the gyms and things like that. But what else is going on, right? So I had this training group that I was teaching out of the local rec center on this new stuff, right? This ninja stuff, right? And so they let me do a demonstration at this fair that they were doing, and so we kind of set up and structured things and had practiced and whatnot. It was a fairly new training group, but all the guys were either military police officers or they were dependents of other soldiers. But the guys that were training with me either had prior martial arts experience or had bad people jump them either before, during, or after their military and law enforcement job, right? So anyway, first technique, right, that I was doing, right, and a couple of my guys get out there doing things, and then first technique I was going to do was a kick defense where you're supposed to shift out of the way, kind of catch the leg, walk, dump the person, right, lock them up, that kind of thing, right? And now you have to understand that I had already been doing different types of martial arts since 1975, right? So this is 1980. Where the hell was I? This was 1982, 83, something like that, right? Was it? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so I'd already been doing martial arts, the block, punch, kick kind of stuff for a good couple of years. So that's already wired into muscle memory. So I'm working through this stuff and everything, and so. This was a basic evasion kind of thing. And even if I miss the leg, I'm still out of the way. I can do some kind of follow-up. And this guy throws this kick, and I shift my body, and my arm instinctively goes into low block position. And his shin kicked my forearm, and there was a loud snapping noise. And he looked at me and said, "Did that just?" And I said, "Yes, keep going." And I shifted into position, took him down, did my whole thing. And I did 20 more minutes of my demonstration one-handed, right? Because I took my right arm, tucked it against my body, and did it without using that arm. And we continued on with the demonstration. And then afterwards, I went up to my then wife and said I need to go to the dispensary, the military version of a clinic, and broke my arm. And she said, "What? Just now?" And I said, "No, like half an hour ago. But we got to go because it's starting to swell." And everybody thought I was nuts because I broke my arm. Right? You get that thing fixed. No, I can get it fixed, but what is that going to do for the reputation of the training group that we're trying to start, right? This martial art that's supposed to be, for warriors and survivors and that kind of thing, right? All the way up to the grandmaster. I mean, all these things are, they're not circling in my head like I have to make a decision. It was a no-brainer. It was just one of these no-brainer kind of things that I can get this fixed later, right? I am here. There's a mission to be accomplished, and it's just something that has to be done, right? Because if it doesn't, failure. Failure wasn't an option. It was just, it wasn't. I didn't think about the negatives. I didn't think about, oh, I'm dishonoring Hatsumi Sensei, and I'm dishonoring my teachers. Nothing like that, right? I couldn't let the training group look like it was crap, right? So so I did this whole thing with this broken arm, right? But I didn't just do that, right? A couple of weeks after this demonstration, I had already organized a seminar and was bringing in a teacher from England, a teacher in this art. And here, my arm was going to be in a full arm cast, right? So the cast is, I guess, on my right arm, right? It's going to run from just below the deltoid muscle all the way down, bent arm, right? With my hand in this, in some medical circles, this is called the orange picker kind of position, right? But it's all positioned so the bones, right, in the forearm can be positioned so that they knit in a correct position and they're not like moving all over the place, right? So I'm in a sling and all that kind of stuff, right? So I didn't cancel the seminar, right? So the seminar comes and all that, right? And the instructor comes over. And so we're doing this thing. And the instructor was like, this is fantastic, right? Because now you have a reason that most people never think of, right? To train where you're protecting this broken limb, that you are, you have to move in certain ways. You're not just free to do whatever, right? You have to adjust around an injury, right? And an injury can occur during a self-defense situation, right? You could be jumped, you could be, banged up or whatever. And then what, right? Well, do you curl up and let the guy beat you into unconsciousness, or do you just keep doing what you need to do, right? Because it's not over till it's over, right? It's not over till, as my teachers used to say, it's not over till the TV gets turned off or until you don't have to defend yourself anymore because he's down and out or running for his life, right? So again, it was one of those moments where I never felt like I was being the tough guy or anything else. Students did, and other people thought I was crazy and whatnot. But here's, the teacher validating that, this is absolutely, a given thing. And that's just one of many times in my training where something happened. The most recent was, I say recent, right? But 2008, when I was in that really bad traffic accident, and ended up with that nerve damage and that bulging disc problem between T8 and T9, mid-thoracic on my back. And what was it? September. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So 5-6 months later, right? I had a trip to Japan scheduled, right? This wasn't a last minute thing. This was the next spring trip. And I went, right? And again, I had one of those things where, I went to as many classes and did as much of class as I could, but I was having a problem with, like, I wasn't blacking out, but my brain would just stop as far as like functioning to process data and stuff like that. I found out later that I had what's called accident-induced ADD, right? Which means that the filter between the outside world and my short-term memory circuits was broken. Okay, we didn't know if it was long-term or not. Did take years to get it like back to where it needed to be, but what that means is that since there was no filter, the short-term memory circuits were being flooded, right? So we weren't sure if my short-term memory section of my brain was messed up like permanently or anything, because what would happen was I would hit a point where, like, there's a difference between being in a Zen meditative mindset where your focus is single-minded on something. All the other processes are doing what they're doing, but we're funneled in on this thing, and there's just this duh kind of thing where that's not Zen. That's like things just stop, right? And still know who I am, can still function and all that. But anyway, I was having these moments, right? And if I overdid it, the disc would bulge, and it bulges on the spinal cord side. So when it bulges, the disc will press into the thecal sac, which is a protective sheath you have around your spinal cord. And if it presses into that, like it is a little bit right now, it's slightly uncomfortable, and I know exactly where it is, and it's just, it is what it is, right? But if it really bulges and it really pushes in, it pushes the thecal sac right into the spinal cord itself, and then the pain sensation is very, very different, right? I no longer feel the pain back there. It feels like there's a metal or a steel shaft sticking through the front of my chest, right? It's very, very different, right? But I was having these moments, and that was my gauge, right, as to when I needed to step back, and I would watch class, take notes, that kind of thing, or when I could physically participate. I apologize for the background noise again. But anyway, most of you know the story about Ishizuka Sensei telling me that was a great opportunity because I could experience something that somebody who never doesn't have that damage or didn't have that injury couldn't feel when it came to our techniques. And then he proceeded to cause pain. And okay. But he did tell me, right, this is going to hurt, but I'm not going to hurt you, right? If you understand the difference, right? Because you're going to get this direct feedback, and it taught me a lot more about techniques that most people only have to or can only theorize about, right? So, but anyway, injuries have never stopped me from training, right? Because I understand the depth and breadth that this training makes up, because it's not just physical, right? Most people come to this for the perspective that it's a martial art, right? They went looking for martial arts, or they thought martial arts would be cool. So in reality, they came at it from the perspective that, this was an acceptable martial arts option among martial arts options, right? When the reality is that it's about survival and protecting yourself and developing certain traits that will allow you to be successful in any kind of scenario, right? If we just talk about conflict, right? Yes, there's physical self-defense, but there's also dealing with stress and assholes at work and pushy salesmen and people that are trying to manipulate or whatever, right? Keeping your head on straight when your kid's blowing a gasket or whatever. There's all these things in life, right, that we could have to protect ourselves from or to stay okay with, right? But there's all kinds of other things, right? The overall challenge of life and excuse me, and all of these things, right? So there's just a butt ton of stuff, right? It all goes back to that question that Takamatsu Sensei, 33rd Grandmaster of the Togakure School, had asked his student, Hatsumi Sensei, my teacher, when he first started training with him, right? He had all this martial experience, all these black belts and stuff. And, Takamatsu Sensei looked at him and said, yeah, okay, great, okay. All those techniques, you can kick, punch, but can you survive? Survive what? Doesn't matter. I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Can you survive? Which requires a way bigger toolkit or toolbox than just learning a particular style of martial arts, right? So, again, my contention, you're going to hear me say this a lot, right? My contention is that ninjutsu is not a real martial art. Okay? From the perspective of it being an information gathering, spy kind of thing way back in the day, all the way to the martial arts or the self-defense stuff is just one aspect among this grander body of knowledge, right? So it's not, it doesn't, the perspective and everything, even the setup, it's not the same. But anyway, injuries have never been an issue for me because, one, I recognize from a self-defense perspective that I could already be going into a self-defense situation with an injury or an illness or anything, right? Bad day, whatever, okay? And I can't make this guy go away and come back when I'm healed. As a matter of fact, he probably cut me from the herd because he saw me limping or because he knows something. And God help me if I'm being attacked by somebody that knows me and they know about the pre-existing injury or whatever, is going on, right? Having a headache, or I've got this debilitating migraine or whatever that I might use to let people know I'm not operating at full capacity today because, bad guy's perspective is fantastic. That's awesome. Great. You can't process things as well? Fantastic. Now's what I'm going to get. Okay. Same thing. Broken arm, sprained wrist, swollen foot, whatever. Right. So I get it. We don't want to do so much that we exacerbate the problem and hurt ourselves. But being an excuse for not training, that should be an excuse for training a very specific way, because you have to, right? This gives you a reason, right? What if somebody, throws something at you and it slams into your foot, and now you've got this thing that you can barely walk on, and here they come, right? So now it gives me a reason to think about this. Okay, so right, I can't move far. Excuse me, can't put a lot of weight on my foot. Okay, so what can I do? How can I move, right? What is my body able to do well enough, right? And so I can practice with that, right? And even after things have healed, now I've got those experiences and that knowledge, right? Back in the storehouse consciousness, right? So should that come up again, I'm not trying to make up shit on the fly, right? I've got it, right? I've been here, been there, done that. I've got the experience, right? So, I already, that's already top of mind. Yeah, but what if you're flat on your back, right? You don't understand. Like, I got bad hips, I got bad knee. Yeah, I know. 2 Decembers ago, slipped on ice, fell on concrete, on the wedge of concrete steps, and broke my lower back. I get it, right? Ended up in the hospital, right? I get it. Flat on my back. I get it. Okay? Then what? Hey, honey, thanks for coming to visit me. Next time you come in, can you bring me this, and this book and my laptop? Okay? And I need a notebook. Okay? So I'm going to go through and read and study in certain areas that I've been putting off or haven't had time for, whatever. Shit, now I'm flat on my back. I got 3 hours of intensive physical therapy every day. Okay, but what am I going to do with the rest of the time? Lay around and stare at the boob tube? Okay, yeah, no. Okay, wait until the next poking and prodding and meds and no. Right, there's something I can be doing, right, and I'm going to do it. Right, so. The question isn't how long until I can train again. How long will it take for this injury to, be fixed so that I can get back to training? How far back or how far behind will this put me? That's not the question. The question is, what can I do with this, right? What might I have to do with this injury or with an injury like it, right? If somebody attacked me right now, how can I move? What can I do? Okay. Those are completely different questions, because if our focus is on success and being this no limits person, this ninja that we're all talking about, right? If it's on being that, then the question needs to be focused on, how do I still produce results given the condition that I have or given the circumstances? Not, I can't, right? What do you expect me to do? I'm injured. I'm broken. No, bullshit, right? That's a cop out. That's somebody waiting. What? You can only operate when the conditions are perfect. The conditions that are perfect are nobody's freaking attacking you. That's perfect conditions. Okay. But that's not what the training's about. The training's about being able to operate under disadvantaged conditions. It's easy to win if you've got the bigger army. It's easy to win if you're the bigger person, right? If you've got more techniques and skill and experience than the other person, it's easier, right? It's not a guarantee, right? It's easier to win if you've got the bigger weapons, right? He brought a knife to a gunfight, or he brought fists to a knife fight, or whatever, right? Okay? That's easy, but that's not ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is is winning against overwhelming odds, right? Ninjutsu is persevering when, right? And it's all wrapped up in the nin kanji, right? That shinobu kanji, right? That we use, right? I'm wearing my what the hell is this? My Under Armour shirt today instead of my my dojo thing. Do I have? Most of you know what the you know what? We'll bring it up here. What the logo is, right? I mean, our logo is the 4-pointed Togakure Senban with the nin kanji on it. Let me see if I can bring up a kanji here quickly. My pictures are all over the friggin' place. Let's see. We'll just do a quick Google search. It'll look backwards when you're seeing it because the cameras do that shit to it. So nin kanji, nin, not ni with a period. Oh. I will just bring it up here. There we go. Okay. So here's this nin kanji, right? Oh, good. Maybe it's not backwards. Awesome. Maybe it flipped around for me. Okay. So here's a quick lesson for those of you who are fairly new to this, or for those of you who never got this freaking lesson the first time around, right? This kanji, right? To persevere, to endure, to never give up, right? All those kind of things, right? It's the word ninja, right, means a persevering or enduring person, right? Nin, to persevere, to endure, to never give up, to never quit. Ja, person, right? So a ninja is someone who perseveres and endures no matter what, okay? And so this kanji, right, paints a picture of this thing, okay? So if you can think of Japanese, Chinese kanji as like hieroglyphics, right? They're pictures of a concept, okay? So instead of being written out with letters that string together to make words that convey an idea like we have, right? These are pictures, okay? So this top part right here, right, is the kanji to or ha for the edge of a blade, right? Without this little diagonal kanji stroke that's right here, right, that cuts. Get my finger here. So there's this downward stroke here. There's this one that cuts across it right here, right? Without this one, right, it's to or blade, right? With that little diagonal thing that cuts through it, that short little stroke, right, that points to the edge of a blade, right? The hot part, the worst part, right? The part that can kill you, right? Otherwise, it's just a piece of metal that'll bludgeon you, right? Okay, so it's to, blade. The bottom one right here, right? Make sure this isn't going to fade on me. Okay, so this bottom part right here, these 4 strokes down here, it looks like 3 dots or teardrops, and somebody's told me it looks like a freaking smiley face with a tear or something, right? But anyway, that's shin, right? Or kokoro, right? For heart, right? Your heart, the organ, your heart, or your core, your essence. And so, what it's conveying is the idea that even though the enemy holds his blade over my heart, I will endure. Okay, I'll survive. Right. So that can convey doing whatever's necessary to survive. Right. But there's an alternate translation to this kanji, right, which is patience. Okay, but it still plays into perseverance because sometimes the conditions are such that I can't act, right, or I can't do what I would normally do. Okay, can't do what I would normally do. And so I have to wait until I can. But that doesn't mean I can't do anything because patience also implies observing, waiting and watching for the perfect moment that I can act and that I go, right? So now a lot of people would say that I just contradicted myself and you know that, yeah, but if I'm injured, right, then I should wait until I can train. No, that's not what I said. I said you may have to wait and be patient until you can train the way you normally train, but that doesn't mean that you do nothing, right? Patience is not nothing. Patience is observing and watching the circumstances so that you can be ready in the moment, right? But just because I can't train the same way doesn't mean that I can't train. doesn't mean I can't do something, right? So one of my Chinese friends, right, because the kanji were imported to Japan from China, right? So there isn't Japanese kanji and Chinese kanji. Well, there are a couple of Japanese kanji that they created along the way, but originally everything was imported, right? So what we have in Japan is a Japanese transliteration of the Chinese word, like nin, of ninja. Okay, that's how you would say that kanji in Chinese, right? Nin. Okay, actually, it's more like an N-I-N-G, nin. Okay, the Japanese other way of saying the same a word that goes with that kanji is shinobu, right? The alternate word for ninja is shinobi, right? One who steals in, a stealthy person, right? Which can also mean a graceful person, one who isn't banging into the world, right? One who is barely perceptible, right? But that doesn't mean they're meek and hiding in a corner. It means they're not doing things to stand out. Meanwhile, they're watching everything that's going on. Okay. So, but there are these ideas that are being conveyed, right? That if we don't know what they are, then we can't live to the ideal, right? So, anyway, so my thing with Brian's question is what can you do, right? And if you don't know, that's one of the reasons for having a teacher, right, or a mentor, right? If you don't know, you can ask. Okay, so here's what's going on, da 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 da, right? Okay, so Isuke Sensei, when I was there with that, back injury, right? He said, of course, right? You train to the point where you can't take a step back, right? If you can, at least watch class, observe class. I've seen people that got injured or confused or whatever, and just freaking changed their clothes and left, right? I've had people that want to do everything, or the fear of a virus coming up. I'm not saying there wasn't a problem. I'm not getting into bullshit conversations and arguments with people, right? But right, they did not have it. They were not bedridden on a ventilator, anything like that, right? We went from dojo training to virtual training where we did things online like this. They didn't even have to leave their own house, and they quit. The hell is that? Right? Like, what, for the rest of your life, we're going to be locked down, right? Martial law, you can't leave your home, so therefore no one will ever attack you, right? Because you're not out in public, right? Yeah, because nobody's going to violate orders and go around and break into people's houses and mug them and take their shit, right? That's just what? I don't need it anymore because I have all the confidence I told you I didn't have when I first started 4 months ago. My discipline is now rock solid, right? Because I don't quit at things, right? Whatever, right? All these things, right? My self-defense skills are like, I can deal with the worst that could come at me, right? No, right? But 75% of our student body, right? Which is really funny, right? It's not as funny as the guys that I've had who need to run right out and get themselves a tattoo of that nin symbol, right? Right, as their commitment to training. And within months, sometimes weeks, they quit. So the irony is, I got a bunch of these people that were former students running around the world with a tattoo on themselves that is about enduring and persevering and overcoming challenges and not quitting, who quit. That's fucking funny. Okay? Sorry. To me, that's funny, right? So they're a step even beyond the people that just, everything's good. We're coming to class. As long as the dojo's going on, there's lockdown, there's virtual classes. I can keep training. What? You're too busy? Sorry, right? So anyway, but again, we get a lot of folks that get involved in the training. They have no idea what ninjutsu is, right? To them, it's karate, right? Oh, if you don't know what the word transliteration means, when I was talking about the Japanese transliteration of an original Chinese word, right? Saying karate, right, is an English transliteration of karate, okay, of the Japanese word karate, empty hand, karate, okay? But it turns into some guy's name in the phone book, K-Rati, right? So anyway, right? So same thing as Aikido, which is Aikido. those kind of things, right? That's a transliteration, right? It becomes the American way of saying things, right? We say ice cream, the Japanese say ice cream. Okay? So we say Christmas, they say kurimasu, right? So it's the way we're going to say that imported word kind of thing. So anyway, all right. So my take on the training when you're injured is, of course, you need to rest and treat that thing, right? But if somebody broke into your house or you were on your way to the pharmacy to pick up meds or whatever, and you've got that injury, the question is, okay, the training while I'm injured is a perfect time to be training to, how to defend myself while trying to protect this. Or for those of you who are advanced, like Carl and some of the other guys that have been around for a long time, right? Using your KUDEN, right? You're disguising truth and falsehood, right? So I've got this injury, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it so it's like a strength, okay? Because if I guard it and he realizes that I'm injured, right, he'll find a way to go after it, right? But there's a cool thing where, let's say my wrist just came out of a cast, right, and it's still weak and all that kind of stuff. Can barely make a fist, right? So I have a choice, right? I can put it against me, right? Where, right, I'm going to hide it from you, that kind of thing, and hope you can't get at it, right? Or I could turn it to face you, right? And what I could do is maybe I can't reach out well with the arm yet because the muscles are still, weak and sore and all that. But I can move that shoulder, which will push the hand forward. Let me position my body here so the guys watching video can see it, right? If I push my shoulder forward, that makes the hand go, and I can flinch, I can move the fingers a little bit or whatever. So it gives the appearance that arm is very proactive, right? And if I'm moving it for him like I'm trying to hit him with it, right? Now he has more of a reason to avoid it and to come up with ideas or come up with ways to stay away from my perceived strength to get at my weakness, when really what I'm doing is I'm leading with the weak arm, right, as a way to protect it, right? So when he shifts to avoid that, to go after the other arm, because I must be a southpaw or whatever, right, goes after the other arm, he's actually going to play into my strengths, right? So it's the same thing, right? If you're a wrestler, right, and you're really, really good at wrestling and you suck at punching and kicking, continue to suck at punching and kicking if you want, but what you could do is just get really good at moving around like somebody who's good at punching and kicking. Get really good at that. So he thinks that you're good at punching and kicking, so he's going to want to get inside the punches and kicks to wrestle with you. And, well, shit, look at that. You're better at wrestling, right? Forgot to tell you, right? Or let's say I suck at wrestling, but I'm really good at punching and kicking, right? So I try to get better at wrestling. I've only gotten so much better, but I'm not going to be able to take on a shoot fighter or whatever. But using my Hetsu Jutsu disguise and impersonation skills, I could get really good at moving around like a high-end wrestler. Not that I have to be good on the ground or be able to lock somebody up or even do takedowns or anything, but how does one of these guys that are really good, right, at wrestling and shoot fighting and stuff, how do they move? How do they hold their head? How do they hold their body? That kind of thing, right? That same thing, right? Same thing is just applied to the whole injury paradigm, right? Anyway, all right, so I'm going to switch gears here and talk about this other thing with limitations, which is going to do a major crossover. But a couple of comments came in. So Stephen says, I had a friend who broke his arm. He was walking with his cast on, and two guys pulled him to the ground by his cast and robbed him. Yeah, so, predators, I don't care what form they come in, right? They look for the weaknesses, right? And if that's broken and they know it, right, then they know that as soon as they grab that, right, it's going to cause a pain response that's going to make you very, very weak, and it's going to make you easy to overcome, right? So what I was doing was being willing to hit people with my cast. Okay, that caused people to kind of second guess how close they wanted to get to me, and people were telling me later, but you would have needed your arm to be reset or what? Absolutely, right? But in training, I can move around and figure out how this arm would move and what the limitation is at the shoulder, what that wrist and elbow positioning does and where my angling could go. Because you know what? In a life or death situation, I'm willing to bash somebody in the skull with this piece of plaster of Paris, knock my arm out of alignment, because it can be reset. If I'm sent to the emergency room, or even worse, to the morgue, there is no reset, right? So you get good at this kind of stuff, right? Just like getting good at breathing and breath control and pain management, right? Because there was another time where I broke an arm, or broke actually a hand. I broke the bone right here in my hand. It was actually in training. I was moving around. We had just gotten these new open-fingered sparring gloves, right? So for those of you who are in my dojo, when we work with these things, when you get to that level, and I tell you to consciously get your fingers straight, right? Don't let the glove maneuver your fingers, right? I'm telling you that from experience, right? So anyway, moving around, somebody throws a kick, right? I shift out of the way. Not quite far enough. I mean, I saved everything here, but their foot kicked that knuckle. That knuckle is the end of that bone, right? Hit that. This bone punched the head of this bone, okay? This bone in your hand here, right? So this one hit this one, right? It was like this kind of thing, right? And this bone split end for end diagonally like that. From the top of one end down to the other, and displaced it, right? I had this huge lump in my hand where this compound fracture almost blew through, okay? So anyway, got it all wrapped up and stuff. The night before, had an appointment with the doctor the next day for the permanent cast to be put on, and he wanted to know if I needed to be put to sleep, and I said, no, what I need for you to do is set the damn bone. Right? He goes, this is really gonna hurt. I've got to maneuver this. And I said, look, just do it. Okay. And I just did these deep breathing exercises and cleansing kind of things. So I wouldn't hold my breath. I wouldn't back up all the carbon dioxide and hyperventilate and all that kind of stuff. Right. While I'm doing this, and he's just perplexed. Right. Does this not hurt? Yes, it freaking hurts. Would you just do the job? Right. So, but that comes from, getting through other things and whatnot, right? And just having this don't quit kind of thing. But either way, right? Maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm just retarded, right? Or maybe I'm living to what this art's supposed to be all about. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, something else came in from, let's see. So transliteration in writing one language in the script of another language, for example, to say doctor in English and then spell it out as, I can't read that, sorry, in Arabic, not to be confused with accent. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay. So anyway, so let's move on to this, the warrior spirit, right? Warrior spirit. I saved this for last because this really has to do with this whole idea of limitations and that nin symbol. Okay. So Brian's question was about things that you could do to foster the warrior spirit. Okay. The first thing I would suggest for fostering the warrior spirit is every time you feel like putting something off till tomorrow, or not doing something because it makes you anxious or nervous, or it's outside your comfort zone or whatever, look yourself in the freaking mirror and say, young man, young woman, get your ass moving. It has to be done. Okay. Doing it anyway. And I know how easy that sounds given the baggage that a lot of us have, right? And God knows I had tons of baggage coming to this stuff, and I still have a decent amount, right? But remember that success is just outside your comfort zone, okay? I think it's the Scrolls of the Takagi Ocean View, right? There's a poem that encapsulates the idea. There's another big $50 word out of a $5 amount, right? Encapsulates the idea of mutodori, right? Unarmed against a weapon. Unarmed against a blade is the literal translation, but it by implication means any weapon. And the poem has to do with death is right there, right? In an instant, death will happen. But one step forward is peace. One step forward is life, right? And the whole idea is in this patience and waiting for it and knowing where that kind of thing is. But the idea is that the bubble that I'm experiencing, right, the anxiety, the terror, the fear, the recognition that shit, I'm going to die, right, it also comes part and parcel with the idea that the danger is here, right? Just take a step, right? Move in a direction. If you don't know what to do, or you don't know, you've got all these options and you don't know which one to pick or whatever, if they're all freaking equal, pick one. But what if I'm wrong? Well, you're going to be dead anyway, so just freaking pick one, right? Okay. Hopefully with experience and knowledge, you'll pick the right one. But if he's coming into this space, the answer is don't be in this space. Okay. Everybody wants to wallow in the problem instead of taking a step in any given direction, because you'll get instant feedback, right? The warrior spirit is the willingness to act, the willingness to decide, right? The willingness to step into directions that you're not comfortable. Because anybody that's comfortable, they may be experienced and accepted and have, experience with it and all that kind of stuff. But comfort ducking bullets, that's not comfort. That's neurosis. Okay. That's disconnect. That's like sociopath, psychopath, whatever, where you either there's no emotional charge or you're actually freaking enjoying it. Right. That's problematic. Right. But there's no growth without struggle. Right. A tree doesn't grow, or a plant doesn't grow because a seed stays the same. Okay. There's not only that internal pressure and drive to become what it can become, right? But there's the pressure from the ground. It's getting soaked with water. It's, heat and all that kind of stuff. And then it splits. The seed dies. The seed splits. So this thing, this, right? Same thing with the caterpillar. Everybody knows all these cliche kind of things, but living it's something different, right? Excuse me. So when it comes to developing the warrior spirit, right, what we want to do is make ourselves uncomfortable. Okay. And I don't mean just like willy-nilly. I mean like head in the direction that you would really like to be going, right? You come home from work just dead ass tired and you don't feel like practicing. Practice. Okay. You are ill and you don't feel like practicing, right? Got a splitting headache, don't feel like practicing. Practice anyway. Okay. Nobody wants to hear this, but the answer is the warrior acts whether or not they feel like it. Okay. I want to have a new t-shirt made for the dojo. It's just one simple sentence across the front. Nobody ever said you had to like it. Yeah, but that's not just a warrior. That's a mature person, right? Kids are led around by pain and pleasure, right? They only want to do things that feel good, and they don't want to do things that feel bad, right? But if you let your kid lead, they wouldn't be inoculated against a bunch of shit that would kill them, right? We wouldn't have nearly eradicated, half a dozen lethal things that our great-grandparents were dying from. Okay? All because we allowed somebody to slide a sliver of steel into our skin and inject a foreign substance. And I'm not getting into bullshit political or things about modern things or whatever. Got my own beliefs, but we don't need to have that discussion. Okay? The point of the lesson is nothing good comes from sitting on your ass and doing nothing. Okay? Nothing good. No goals are accomplished. No worthwhile goals are accomplished because they were easy. We don't even see those as goals. Yeah. Hey, did you accomplish that goal of having breakfast this morning? What the hell are you talking about? Goal, breakfast. It's not a goal. That's really staying alive, getting up, those kind of things, right? That's not a goal. Surviving another day, making sure you have nutrients to Okay. But see, we don't even think about those things because we've grown beyond that kind of thing. Okay. Growth comes from challenge. Okay. You want to develop more of the warrior spirit, make yourself uncomfortable more. Do things that you don't believe you can do. And prove yourself wrong. Okay. Because this goes right along with that limitations kind of thing. Okay. Limitations are these perceived illusory kind of things, right? You will know what your limitations are when you've done everything you can, everything you can think of, and everything everybody else can think of to overcome a particular thing, debilitation, whatever. But it's still not a limitation. To me, it's not a limitation. A limitation I can't get rid of is motivation to find a workaround. Because just because I have something that will limit me from doing things the way everybody else can get it done doesn't stop me from doing it. Any more than it stopped the girl who has no arms from being a ballet dancer, or the guy that I know that started a multi-million-dollar sanitation company who has no arms and no legs. No, his name is not Bob, right? No arms and no legs, right? Has his entire office set up to be able to do these things and types with a freaking pencil in his mouth and all kinds of things, right? Or now I'm sure he uses voice recognition stuff or whatever, right? But he started this company back in the late 80s, right? There are all these examples that just make most people's yeah buts look like pansy ass bullshit little cop-outs, right? And those are the things that people won't look at, right? Because it just blows their freaking excuses out of the water. It's kind of like the dad that got involved with our training. He sounded like he was a freaking member of the mafia, and I think some of his family might have been, but he was a transplant to my area from New Jersey. So he talked like this, you know what I'm saying? He just, had this, wise guy kind of talk, But anyway, he got his daughters involved in my classes, and he was just this training dad. He would always tell me, he was at that point, he was probably in his mid to late 30s, right? And he would always tell me, I'd love to do this, but, got all these injuries, because he was like, anyway. So he was a contractor and rode horses and all that kind of stuff, and banged into the world once too many times. And, that kind of all these things, right? Age and injury and all this kind of stuff, right? And so, but he would always tell me, oh man, I'd love to do this, but, but, right? And then we got invited to do a demonstration at a local federal prison. I don't even remember how it happened, but they knew about our program, and they were having an open house family kind of thing. It was for the guards and their families and stuff like that, right? So there was an open house kind of thing where people got tours of the prison and all that. We were there for dinner night, and we did this demonstration, right? And so we kind of wrapped it around not just correction officers, but also bringing in some of the historical stuff. So we had like people doing dive rolls and coming out into position. We had, traditional weapons, modern weapons, all kinds of cool stuff, right? Well, one of the guys that helped out, his name was Bud Mchale. I love Bud to death. Bud passed away a couple of years ago. We had this really cool connection. But anyway, Bud was, God, what was Bud then? Bud was 68, 69. Before Bud had come to me, he got his grandchildren involved, and then he and his daughter, their mom, got involved, and they went all the way to getting their secondary black belt. But before Bud came to me, he had multiple heart attacks. He had multiple bypass surgeries. He was like 6 months out of the most recent one when he joined the school. I'm trying to remember this stuff, so if I'm not looking right at you. When he came to me, he had a nitroglycerin patch on each arm and an emergency vial of nitroglycerin hanging off his neck. Okay. And so by the time we did this demo, Bud was down to like alternating a patch every other day, and the vial was gone, right? That was gone like 6 months into his training. So, Bud had flat feet. He was short. He was severely overweight, that kind of stuff, right? So Paul, the guy that I was talking about originally, right? He had his daughters there for the demonstration. They were helping. His wife was there. We had all these people doing stuff, right? And there was Bud, right? By all conventional definitions and standards, Bud should have been sitting on his ass, cheering on his grandsons, right? Silently wishing he were, 20, 30 years younger, okay? But there was Bud in uniform, doing dive rolls, not the same as everybody else. He'd reach out, collapse his body down, and turn it into a side roll and come out that way and get up and do his thing and all that, right? Wasn't perfect by any means, but it was the best that Bud could do, right? Cool, right? Bud at heart, right? Now, Bud was also a retired command sergeant major from the Army and all this kind of stuff, but either way, right? So he's doing all this stuff, and afterwards, we had this conversation and everything, and went home. Everything was good, right? And it was not more than a day or two later, Paul came into the dojo, and he said, "Sign me up." I said, "Wow, where'd that come from?" He goes, Bud did it. How did Bud do it? I was at the demo the other night. Yeah, of course we're at the demo, right? Yeah, well, Bud being Bud and doing what he did, I got nothing. I had a conversation with my wife on the way home, and after minutes of silence and her saying, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" he said, "All my excuses are bullshit. If he can do that, being the way he is, I have absolutely no freaking excuses whatsoever. So sign me up." And not only did I sign him up, but Paul ended up coming to work for me as a program director, signing up other people because, like, he didn't just have the perspective of a dad with his kids. He had this huge aha moment that, look, your limitations are only what you make them, right? And you're the only one stopping yourself. Okay. And I know Aunt Barb or Uncle Mike or the Grand Poobah of whatever fraternal organization of Water Buffalo, whatever, right? Told you that, blah, blah, blah. But who accepted it? Who accepted it as truth and went along with it? So you want to do more with the warrior spirit or develop more of the warrior spirit, then you're going to have to develop a failure is not an option kind of thing for yourself when your own bullshit comes up. It's just, you're going to have to do things that you don't think are possible, or that you always say, "Well, I could never do that. That's not me." Okay, well, let's move in that direction and see what happens. Well, what will happen is the anxiety and the fear and all that kind of stuff that you've protected yourself from is what's going to boil to the surface. Okay. And the warrior spirit is that which carries you through it, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. Right. Remember those old bumper stickers, right, that said fearless, and then other ones came out that said fear this, right? It's just bullshit comments from two opposing forces, right? So, they got one group that's saying fearless, right? And the other one, fear this, right? When the reality is that they're both hiding behind this false bravado kind of thing, right? Because courage has nothing to do with the lack of fear. Courage has nothing to do with lack of fear. Bravery has nothing to do with lack of fear. Bravery and courage are those things that we identify when somebody is acting in spite of fear. Oh, he's so, well, you would never know it today, because the new thing today is somebody exposing their weaknesses or holding out their victimhood or whatever, right? That person is courageous. I'm confused. So I'm a victim. That's why I can't. And here's all the reasons why. And those people did this to me. And so I can't. And I should get extra brownie points. That's courageous. Not in spite of all that has been done to me and all the people that tried to break me and all that, I will still accomplish my goals. Somehow that's not courageous. That's an asshole. Well, okay. You got a choice, I guess, based on today's definitions. Be a victim or be an asshole. In all honesty, I'd rather be an asshole. If those are my choices, I'd rather be an asshole. See, because those things will limit you as well. Okay, remember that you're either courageous and a mentor or somebody to look up to or strong or whatever, or you're an asshole based on the person that is identifying you and what you make them feel like or what you remind them of or whatever. Somebody who needs a mentor to be strong is going to look at you one way. People that don't want an example and don't want to hear that they need to get off their ass and do things, you're an asshole. Okay? Just, you know, it's kind of like driving down the road. And I remember one time I had my daughter was getting an award, right? 2.5 hours from where I live. Okay. And it was like life was conspiring for me to not make it that day. Right. And just car broke down, all kinds of things. Right. I got there 45 minutes late. Got all kinds of comments and everything. And I said, it's okay. You aren't with me, but I'm here. And all the reasons to not make it that day. And I'm sure, because I remember a moment or two, right, where I cut somebody off as I was doing everything I could, including risking getting a ticket to get there. Okay. So, but it's perspective. My daughter was extremely happy that her dad made it, right? Because she doesn't live with me, right? Dad did everything he could to make it. He was late, yes, but he made it, right? That was my daughter's perception. Her family's, or my ex-wife's family's perception was, asshole can't even be on time for his daughter getting an award. They know enough to be quiet, but that was their perspective. Perspectives of the people I cut off on the highway, what an asshole. So, you know, who am I going to be? What am I going to tune myself into? Accomplishment of the goal. Right? That doesn't mean I'm going to do things. Well, in that case, I did some things that were illegal, like, you know, some people might have called it reckless driving or whatever, but I sped, I broke the speeding laws, those kind of things, right? You know, okay, right? But for the most part, moral and ethical and all that kind of stuff, I stay within those boundaries, right? Not only can I not do anything about everybody's perspective of me, right, or perception of me, but I don't want to. Because to make sure that everybody's okay with me means that I'm now no longer me. I'm running around trying to make everybody else happy. I am trying to be the best me I can be so I can be of the most value to those I choose to serve. Some people aren't going to like that so much. Some people aren't going to like the options that I choose. Right? That doesn't mean I don't care about their feelings, but I'm not going to let their feelings and their perceptions stop me from getting where I need to go. Okay? So another way to nurture the warrior spirit is to have a freaking vision big enough that the attainment of it is more important to you than what anybody else says about you, thinks about you, or whatever. Okay? Impediments will not stop you. You have this vision that you just know that I will do that thing. Any obstacle that pops up in front of me, I will go over it, under it, around it, through it, or I'll wait until it passes by, and I'm going to keep on moving. Failure is not an option. See, warrior and spirit, right? But warrior specifically is another one of these freaking words that are just get bandied around these days. everything from football teams to whatever, right? Well, maybe not so much now, maybe 10 years ago. But either way, it's kind of like enlightenment and all that kind of stuff, right? They're used out of context, and people really don't understand the full meaning of it, right? It just sounds cool. We're the warriors. Really? If I hold a gun at your face, you still going to feel like a warrior? The answer should be yes. Because if you stick a gun in my face and you haven't already pulled the trigger, not only am I going to take it from you, it's going to fucking hurt. And I'm going to resheath it or reholster it in places it's on your body that are not designed for that gun to go. I know that. So you better fucking shoot me. And you better do it from across the street, because if you're within arm reach, I'm going to do everything I can to change your life. Now, if you shoot me already, no worries. I can't do anything about that. Okay? And I accept that. Okay? This is not about you and me. This is, I'm using the term generally, right? But I also know what's valuable in my life. And I know that I can't do good in the world if I'm not in the world. So guess who trains? Guess who studies when he can't physically train? Guess who well, not me, obviously, because I'm just this fat old bald guy that has a podcast that isn't cool like other people. Right? So the mindset is where it all starts. You can call it warrior spirit all you want, right? There's a story in one of Hatsumi Sensei and Stephen Hayes' books. What's it called? Secrets from the Grandmaster, I think, right? It doesn't, I think it's not in it, right? I think it's Secrets from the Grandmaster. It was this book that came about because of these interviews, not really interviews. The way I got the story, and it's in the introduction to the book as well, but my first teacher in this art, Stephen Hayes, he was in Japan. He and his wife, Rumiko, were in Japan. We're visiting Hatsumi Sensei. And they got on these topics, and I think what came up was this idea that, Hayes was like, most people aren't privy to these conversations, and so they misunderstand a lot of this stuff. And Soke was like, well, you got a recorder? I mean, whatever, right? So they started having these like meetings and conversations and recording these things, and then it got transcribed into this book. It's a really cool thing. Highly recommend reading it, right? Just like I highly recommend reading Jack Hoban's book, Ninpo, Living and Thinking Like a Warrior, Bud Malmstrom's book, Warriorship, right? You can find that. That was self-published. Hopefully it's out there somewhere, right? Really, really good books, right? More on the mindset of things, right? There's another good one. I don't know. But another good one is one by a guy named Richard Bach. Not in Ninjutsu, right? Richard Bach. Read the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Yes, I know it's a fictional book about a freaking bird. Okay? Read the damn book. Okay? And then read it again. Then read it again. And then make yourself the main character. Okay? Because he goes through all the trials and tribulations of somebody who is training to master something, regardless of what everybody else is thinking, saying, laughing about, whatever. And he's okay being by himself to get it done. Okay? That's not a spoiler. You got to read the book. Okay? Somebody gifted it to me a long time ago at a seminar. I read it 2.5 times on the flight back home. It's a short read, right? Small words, but it's a short read. Read it 2.5 freaking times, and it was like a punch to the face. It was amazing. Right. So anyway, I don't know where the hell I was going with that, but anyway, mindset, right? Mindset. You want to develop warrior spirit. You've got to, one, have a vision or have goals that are big enough that will just. You know what, I was going to say, pardon me if this bothers you, but if your goals aren't so freaking big that they either make you second guess your own sanity or supercharge you so much your freaking nipples get hard and your hair stands up on end, right? If they're not that big, then you let everybody else beat you down already. Go back to childhood. What would be so freaking cool to get done or experience or whatever, regardless, right? Regardless. If time was not an issue, if time away from work was not an issue, if money was not an issue, if were not issues, what would you freaking do? Where would you be? Where would you visit? Who would you go shake hands with? Excuse me. Now, start acting like that. Start acting like those things aren't limitations. The only reason why the job and whatnot is a limitation is because you've convinced yourself that, you can't do without it. Nobody else in the area will pay you as much, or, they won't give you time off. How do you know? Do you ask? Well, I just know. Really? Well, if you're that freaking clairvoyant, then you should be able to know in advance how to get to whatever goal you want to get to. It's amazing to me how clairvoyant 99.9% of the fucking population is in knowing for sure that they cannot ever accomplish something that they really want to accomplish, but they can sit around the kitchen table BSing about how the president's fucking up the world, and if they were in that position, they would XYZ. Really? Really? you Sorry, you could run a whole fucking country, right? But you can't accomplish goals. That's just freaking brilliant. Anyway, but we need to hear our own BS, right? That's part of the personal clarity part, right? That's the first area of training in the Togakude school. Seishin Teki, right? Personal clarity, personal development, spiritual refinement. It all starts with know thyself. Okay? Where the hell have we heard that stuff before? Anyway, it's all cliche unless you're actually doing it, right? And I know, right? I'm going to get tons of email like I always do. Sensei, you don't understand. Your life is like this, and your life is like this, and you were born with what? A silver spoon in your mouth, and you were born with great parents, and you go back and listen to some of the other episodes. They're not made up, right? I'm genuinely this freaking happy, unless something is going on that requires me to bring a different aspect of myself forward, in which case you're not going to see me smiling. And if I am smiling, it's that Cobra smile, right? So anyway, all right, what else do we have? Don't be a water buffalo. All right, Brian, you started this mess. Sorry to hear Bud passed. Yeah, Therese. Well, we were all sorry to hear that your husband passed as well. So good people no one stays around forever, right? But it always hits us harder when good people go. But at the same time, what lessons did you get? What value did you get while they were here? That's my number one goal. I have two goals in life, right? Two major goals, right? Besides, accomplishing goals that I set for myself, right? But one is to live immortally through the lessons that I leave with my children and people that encounter me, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm trying to convince them of anything, right? But I want to be so atypical that they can't forget me. And I don't mean like being eccentric and nutball and stuff like that. I mean, I want to be that person that changed their entire perception of humanity, because everybody else has either become lazy or slothful or whatever, right? Think about what you think is normal, right? What you write off every day, right? And then make sure you're not being that. Okay, that's the water buffalo, right? So, and the other one is to close my eyes on my deathbed, knowing that, man, I had an awesome life. I'm ready for the next adventure. I don't want to be that old guy that's sitting around going, well, if I were 20 years younger, I would. If I can still move, I'll be figuring out how that old guy can do that thing. Let's see. I only caught part of the live podcast. I'll catch the rest. Me, myself, anywhere is so self-limiting. Thanks again for doing these. Okay. Well, before you write yourself off as being so self-limiting, me too. Okay. But I do the best I can at being mindful of when I'm choosing certain options that do limit me. Like this past weekend, right? I started off, I don't remember if it was version 1 or version 2 of this thing. We're coming out of the Thanksgiving holiday, and I took a couple of days off, right? And what I said was, now that I got the holidays out of the way, right? It's not that I didn't enjoy time with my wife or enjoy family time or whatever, right? But when it comes to accomplishing my goals, they were in the way, right? Now I know people are going to misunderstand that. Like I just said, my family was in the way and all that kind of stuff. But while I enjoy holiday gatherings and get-togethers and things like that, right? It's time not spent on getting where I am intending to go and maintaining the momentum, right? So it doesn't make me a workaholic, okay? It makes me highly fucking focused, okay? So if you saw, you know what, I have it right here, right? If you see in my my book, right, every day, right, I've got quoted the day, right? This is one from a business mentor that I have, right? Just fucking do it, right? Goals out here, successes I keep track of, that kind of stuff, right? So these are just the current days, right? I had this journal, I got it from a different business mentor, because it's about, like, it's not about 10xing your results. It's not about the 10. It's about just fucking go beyond what you think that you're capable of, right? In our Mchale training, there's this one teaching. It's called the Heart Sutra. It's about getting past what you see, right? Because a lot of people are like, if I can't see it, taste it, touch it, whatever, then it doesn't exist. Okay, you know what? You can't freaking see, taste, touch, or whatever the subatomic particles that make up the molecules that make up the odor that you're smelling, or the microphone that I'm staring at, or the computer screen. You can't see those things either, right? What you can see is the thing that's big enough for your senses to recognize. Okay, so we got to be careful, but it's not about the number, right? But anyway, in this teaching, at the very end of it, there's this mantra, right? There's this slogan, right? That's in English. It just says "Gone, gone, gone beyond enlightenment," right? And what that means is I'm going so far beyond my understanding or belief or interpretation of enlightenment, right? Because if I'm aiming for something, it's a limit, right? It's a goal and it's a place to start, but I have to understand that that's a marker that I can recognize. What I'm really searching for is beyond it, and beyond that, and beyond that. It's kind of like when we target something with a punch. I always tell students, stop targeting the freaking surface, and stop targeting an inch beyond the surface, and stop targeting just the middle of their body or whatever, right? I want you to target, especially when you're doing this classical ski, right? Ski doesn't mean punch, right? It means to pierce or thrust. It's a spearman and swordsman's term. To pierce or thrust, right? It's not done the same way a normal punch is done. Uch, to atemi, to impact the body. That's all different. Ski, right? I want you to focus through the surface, through the body, through the wall behind the person, through the limits of the building, down through the town, next town over, and punching a building there. That's where I want your focus. So if that's the focus for a ski, what's the focus for this for goals? It's the same. It's the same. Focus so far fucking beyond the thing that you're willing to accept, that when you end up failing on the thing that you aimed for, ultimately, you only hit 60 or 80% of that. You're so far freaking beyond the thing that was reasonable that you astonish yourself and everybody else thinks you're freaking magical. It's not magic, it's focus. What you focus on, you aim for. Is what you're going to go for, right? Energy goes, or has it go? Energy flows where attention goes. What you put your attention on is what you're going to expend your energy on getting to, right? If I decide I'm taking a vacation over this, what I love these people with staycations, right? But anyway, I'm taking a vacation over a weekend or for a week, right? And we're going to a local amusement park that's close to our house, where it's a 20-minute drive, whatever. Take the kids, whatever. We can go back and forth, rent a cabin, that kind of stuff. Doesn't take me nearly the amount of time, effort, resources, energy, focus, planning, anything like that. Discomfort, right? As planning on taking my family to the Cayman Islands by way of a cruise ship. Oh, and we are going to have to, I mean, we could drive, but that's going to take an extra freaking week, right? To get to the port where we're going to take the whatever, right? Okay. How about if we fly, right? So all this stuff, right? To organize and whatever, kids, getting kids out of school. I know I've done that a couple of times. I mean, my youngest is going to be graduating here in a couple of months, but it's the same thing, right? Where you're going, right? Oh, well, I need to block somebody. Hold on one second. I got somebody that decided that they're, let's see. Every once in a while, we get a dickhead. Bum, 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 bum. This is easy, done, perfect, excellent. Nice talking to you. Have a nice life. And there again is wonderful. What do you call them? Why? Let me find it again. Block list. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So let me bring it up here to somebody else and show that. So we get that off my damn screen. All right. So, okay. We're going to show you here. It's holiday day. Holiday day. Holiday day. Holiday day. There it is. Great. Christmas shopping. Well, that was Christmas shopping for Angie. Let's see. I have. There we go. That's my wife, Angie time. Okay. Blocking out a whole day. There was a day blocked out for my grandson, that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So, no, it's not like insensitive and impersonal, like, oh, you're scheduling them in your time and all that. No, I've decided that I understand that's going to limit my moving toward primary goals and all that kind of stuff, but balance, right? I need to do this too. I need to nurture my relationship with my wife. I want to spend some time with my grandson, all those kind of things, right? So, and here's the reality, right? Here's the real thing, because not everybody, right? 80% or better still want to live their lives like a 3-year-old. And what I mean by that is we want to chase after all the pleasantries and avoid all the painful stuff. So we're busy like trying to manipulate life so that we can have it all. Right? So I can avoid the pain. I can not have to worry about trade-offs. I can. But if you're a grown-up, you know that everything costs something. Everything. I can't do something or have something without giving up something else. Whether I'm giving up money to get it, I'm giving up time to get it, I'm giving up energy to get it, I'm giving up something else that I would like to be doing, but this thing's more important, and I have to pick and choose. Okay? Nothing is free. Training hurts. Training takes time, right? If I want to be training, I take time away from my family, right? But I know that the training is going to make me a better dad, father, husband, whatever, right? Okay? So it's gonna loop back, right? But it's about clarity, right? It's about clarity. All right, let me see if I can shift things here a little bit. Anyway, all right. So what else we have here? I think that's it before Jagwagon jumped on things, right? Anyway, all right. So, boy, we've been at this for, well, just under 2 hours on the second reboot, but I started over 2 hours ago. So anyway, last minute questions or comments? Anything before I wrap this up? Let's see. Jen, Mike, thanks for joining in. Mr. Nordlinger, right? I'm not sure if it's Steven or Stefan. I've seen same spelling, both pronunciations. Brian, thanks for the topic ideas for class. I appreciate it. Therese, it's always good to see you, my friend. Who else? And then we had we had Party Crasher. Alrighty then. Anyway, okay. So if there's nothing else, you can always shoot me an email, right? If you want to send in something, whether it's topic ideas or anything like that, you can either find me on Facebook, Jeffrey M. Miller. I think it's Jeffrey M. Miller 22. But either way, you can find me, right? You can post it through the KUDEN podcast Facebook page, right? Online ninjutsu training page, whatever, right? Shoot me an IM, or you can just cut to the chase and send it via email to Warrior C, WARRIOR, the letter C, at warrior-concepts-online.com. That's the quickest, easiest. Either I will see it or my guy James Alexander, he's my admin assistant, he'll see it. I thought James was going to be on, and maybe he is. Maybe he's over on YouTube or something like that. Either way, Josh got in and caught the end of it. Cool. All right, so guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I will talk to everybody again next time. Keep the ideas coming, keep the questions coming, and if you're interested in doing training beyond that, let me know. Right, got a lot of plans for 2022, like big time. Right. So, which means I'll be busy as hell, and don't ask me how I'm going to accomplish them, because I don't know yet, and that's the secret, right? To set goals. Everybody thinks that they need to know how they're going to accomplish it when they set it. Really? No. Set it, and then you'll start to figure out what it is that you need. Then you can work at solving those problems. Right? Everybody sets goals bass backwards, right? Like I have to have all this stuff together before I can set the goal. See me blinking? That's just no. I can set 500 goals right now, right? And just because I'm doing it, right? But set the goal and figure it out from there. And no, you don't have to have any idea how you're going to accomplish it when you set the damn goal. Right? Stop shortchanging yourself and stop doing it like everybody else, for God's sake. If everybody else knew what the hell they were doing and they were right, they wouldn't be bitching, moaning, and complaining. Right? You wouldn't be trying to do ninjutsu because it's different than what everybody else is doing. So if you want to do something different, you want to be something different, stop doing things like everybody else is doing it. They're wrong. But hey, if you need to go with the masses, all right, that's it. I'm going to talk to everybody again next time. Oh, wait, another message came in. I don't want to ignore anybody. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, you're welcome. It was just thank yous. All right, guys, I'll talk to everybody again next time. If you're local, don't forget, no classes tomorrow at the school. Tomorrow's test night, and so no regular classes. And then we've got end of the year kind of stuff coming up. Christmas party. Yes, it's a Christmas party, not a holiday party. Call it what you want, right? I live in an area where we celebrate Christmas, so it's a Christmas party, right? That is Thursday, December 23rd, so there's no classes. Last classes at the dojo are Wednesday, December 22nd, and then we're closed through the new year. And then if you're scheduled for December test, that's Monday, January 3rd. Classes restart Tuesday, January 4th, and Friday starts our weekend intensive for the Daikomyo side, right? Our New Year's kickoff seminar. Yes, pun intended. All right, that's it. I'm going to stop talking. I'll talk to everybody again next time. See ya.
Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site or subscribe at modernninjawarrior.com.